KFSR at CMAC present the Central Valley Ledger, a public affairs program featuring stories from all over the Central Valley with Sevag Tateosian, 90.7 KFSR.
Welcome back to the Central Valley Ledger. I'm your host, Sevag Tateosian. We're now joined with Justin Vartanian, a financial advisor with Brouwer, DeJong Associates. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Did I say that right, by the way?
It's Brouwer, DeJong
Brouwer.
Associates.
I'm going to practice that next time. I admit, this time I didn't practice.
It's a Dutch name.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
I was born and raised in Fresno, California. I've lived here my entire life. Parents have lived here their entire life, and ultimately I'm a Bullard High School grad. Went to Fresno City College, and then went off to Fresno State to get a major in corporate finance. So,
I went to Central High. We played football against you several times. I had some of my best games against Bullard.
Yeah.
But you all play a good football game there.
I think you guys were dominating the stats for about 10 or 15 years, and it might have swung the other way. I'm not sure.
What made you decide to get into this field? I mean, you know, you could have decided other fields to get into. What about this field?
Well, to be real honest, personal finance are a struggle for a lot of families. I think a lot of that has to do with not communicating openly about them. And then there's also not a lot of good personal finance educations in our school system, sometimes lacking in our churches or even community-based organizations. So if you don't have a financial professional to rely on, sometimes you're just winging it. And I felt watching my family go through some different seasons of life financially that I would want my family to kind of navigate it a little bit differently. And so my original interest in personal finances was so that my family would have it a little bit easier ride. And then as I found a passion for real estate and loans, insurance and securities, I found that I was wanting to help other people understand what I knew, and it just kind of snowballed into a career.
Why should we care about our finances? I mean, some people say, who cares? You're only here today. Go spend it. Go have fun.
Yeah, that's one financial plan.
I don't know about a plan there, but it's a plan.
Yeah, if you don't have a plan, then you really do have a plan. And I would say that most of Americans, some studies say up to 70% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. So it's not even as it's just a constant in our country. And if 70% are living paycheck to paycheck, that doesn't say much about what's going to be for their future. And so trying to get those numbers to be more balanced, and that way people can be more financially independent.
So what is it exactly that you do? So let's say that I'm sitting at home with my family and I'm like, you know what, we need to do better finances, and I give you a call. You come to my house, or we meet somewhere for coffee, and then what?
Yeah, some people wish that we'd come to their house, but we don't have as many tools and computer screens, so we ask the people to come in for an initial visit. It's complimentary in nature. We usually spend anywhere from an hour to 2 hours with them. We're asking them a lot of questions about who they are as people, what's happened in their past financially, and ultimately what do they want to achieve. And then in that initial meeting, they're also interviewing us. Are we the right fit experience-wise? Do we provide the services they want? And so it's a kind of an interview back and forth of this is what we're looking for as a family to build a retirement plan, to save for college. Is that something you specialize in? And then what would you help us with? So it's kind of a back and forth for initial meetings.
So it might be a challenge for you when you get a family that's living paycheck to paycheck to break down the finances. So what places do you look at for us to cut? And what do you consider, where would you like us to invest?
Yeah, for clients that are living paycheck to paycheck, some of those people aren't willing to meet with a financial planner because they don't want to become more aware of their situation. It's kind of just putting that in the other room. But for people that are interested, the first thing we do is we start with their budget. And people are really good at outlining their fixed expenses, the expenses that don't change every month. My car payment is $293 and my mortgage is $1,295. But that's not really where budgeting's hard. The budgeting's hard on the variable. How about our grocery bill? Well, I'm not really sure. How about eating out? Oh, we eat out a lot. Well, do you spend much on your kids? Yeah, probably too much. And so really trying to help people create a realistic budget is the primary cornerstone of good financial advice. And so as we look over things, if we can find $100 in their grocery bill, $100 in their eating out, $100 in their hobby, you can start to build $500, $600, $700 pretty fast. And then you have to prioritize where to put that.
And speaking of where to put that, there are things called stocks, mutual funds. By the way, what is a mutual fund?
Mutual fund is a basket of securities where you have a financial professional or team pick individual stocks or bonds on your behalf, and they give you a diversified approach to investing. That does come at a cost, and a lot of people don't like paying a cost, but ultimately they provide a more smooth ride, or a lot of them can provide a more smooth ride and a more diversified approach to investing, which helps people stay invested.
So I'm going to play the person that says, oh, I don't need a financial advisor. So bear with me, because I'm going to stir the pot a little bit here.
Absolutely.
I could do this alone. There are websites I could go to and pick the stocks. Why should I, or why shouldn't I?
Yeah, nobody needs a financial advisor. I'll be the first one to say that. Like, nobody needs a personal trainer or a coach. But most people who have a coach or an advisor or a trainer are going to receive better results. So we mostly are attracted to people who want better results than they're getting on their own. And for people who are happy with their results, those aren't usually the people that are looking to get advice. And so, yeah, we're not the right fit for everyone, and nor does everybody need a financial advisor. I'll be the first one to say that.
You're, I would say, in a kind of tough profession in that you're fairly new, and there's been people that have been doing this for years and years and years. So why sell me? Why should I come to you?
Well, a lot of times too, I'm not really competing for clients that are being served well with their current financial advisor. If you meet with your financial advisor regularly, you know what company your investments are with, you know them by name, and you can pick up the phone and talk to them, you probably have a pretty good situation as far as a financial advisor and a client goes. But oftentimes I come across people that haven't looked at their investments in years, don't know what they're paying, have no idea if they're on track for any of their financial goals. And those sort of people, we can add a lot of value without adding much cost.
Someone with $500, let's say, they could either put it in the drawer in their house, they could put it in a shoebox, or they can invest it. What would you say?
If they only have $500 and next month they're not going to have another $500, leave it in the shoebox. That would
I
be
like the honesty, by the way. You're not looking to pick up clients, because someone who wanted clients would say, hey, come invest it with me.
You know what? Life happens, and there are a lot of unexpected bills. And if you have your money in the market or some sort of market that's moving back and forth, and you're going to rely on that security that's moving back and forth, it's not usually the best time to invest. So our first piece of advice is clear up credit card debt, build an emergency fund, and then start building for your future. Because then when life happens, you don't have to stop investing in your future, and you don't have to use credit cards. You can use that emergency fund.
Share with us a little bit about our community. Have you learned that a lot of people in our community are living, I mean, you touched on it a little bit, but specific to our community, are a lot of people living paycheck to paycheck?
That's a good question. We work with about 350 families, and so we don't have a great pulse on the market here. But I would say for the clients that we start working with that are living that way, they're not living that way for too much longer. And a lot of it has to do with they've now verbalized, I have a goal to retire. I have a goal to help my kids with their future. I have a goal to be debt-free. And now somebody has been brought into that situation to remind them of those goals that are important that can't allow them to live paycheck to paycheck. So we're helpful in that process, but I'm not really sure.
Needs versus wants. What is a need? What is a want?
Need is shelter. Need is transportation. Need is food. Now, shelter doesn't mean you need a $500,000 home. Transportation is not maybe the nicest car that you can qualify for, but a reliable car. And, food, there's a big difference between shopping at Food Max and Whole Foods. There's a big difference between going out to eat at McDonald's and going out to eat to Fleming's. So, these are choices that we make every single day that impact our financial life.
People who live paycheck to paycheck and are wanting the lavish lifestyle, is it going to come back and haunt them one day?
I don't like to make promises, but at the end of the day, if you ever want to become financially free from going and working a job, you're going to have to find some ways to find margin in your financial life and store up some reserves for your future. Because we have a Social Security system that is still intact, but there are some red flags on the second page of your statement. So consider downloading your recent statement on www.ssa.gov to read some of those red flags. But ultimately, employers aren't as willing to take care of your future with pensions and company matches, and the government social benefit program, Social Security, is struggling a bit. I mean, there used to be 16 people paying into Social Security for every one person taking out. Now there's 3 people paying in for one person taking out. So we're
shrinking.
We're shrinking as far as earners and takers, but at the end of the day, yeah, it's probably going to catch up with them. And many of our clients that start with us in their 50s or 60s, the thing they always say is, "I wish I would have met you sooner. I wish I would have started sooner." And so we tell them, tell your kids that.
Someone in the 20s.
Yeah.
Probably not let's say someone just graduated, probably not making much money per year.
Mm-hmm.
If they want to put $50 away in a month, what would you suggest?
Well, I think they should. The biggest advantage that somebody young has is time. An okay investment over 30 years is better than a great investment over 5 or 10. And I can't maybe say that with 100% guarantee, but the thought is that $50 has a really long time to grow and develop. And if you start 10 years later or 20 years later, it usually takes 2, 3, 4, 5 times the same savings to end with the same goal. So if they have an employer-sponsored plan that has a company match, go get that quote-unquote money from your employer. If not, consider putting in a savings account for a while to build up. And then you could open up an investment account, but normally we'd like you to have 2 to 3 months of your average living expenses in a savings account before you start investing.
What about the people who say banks aren't safe?
Yeah.
I know otherwise because there's something called the FDIC. Do you run into that? And then what do you tell them?
Every once in a while you do. We don't run into that all that much, but for people that are a little bit fearful of larger financial institutions and they'd rather have some in a shoebox, you tell them to maybe not put it in your mattress, but put it under your mattress, because if you're gone tomorrow, they may throw that mattress out. And so we kind of just, make light of it. But sometimes our clients do want to hold some true hard cash or gold, and we don't usually get in the way of that. Because if it puts their emotions at ease, they'll keep their long-term investments in the right direction.
Tell us a little bit about your firm that you work for. So talk about how many employees, where you're located, stuff like that.
Yeah, we're off First and Alluvial across from Kasner Middle School. Mm-hmm. There are currently 5 financial advisors. I'm one. We have, it looks like 4 team members now, all full-time. And we serve about anywhere from 500 to 600 families. I personally serve about 125 families.
Who's your ideal client? Or is there such thing as an ideal client?
It's the most common question I get. And I always just tell people that are motivated for their future and are nice.
So the people that, let's say, don't have much to invest but want to start with you, will you talk to them?
Absolutely. I love those meetings, and I love working with them because they're not obsessed with their future finances, but they're just motivated. And when you have somebody encouraged about their finances, you can achieve a lot. And our clients that achieve a lot stay clients for a really long time.
I imagine you have a lot of meetings per day. Tell us about your day.
Every week, I'm probably in 15 to 20 meetings, anywhere from an hour to 2 hours. And so I'm not as easy as I once was at getting a hold of via email or phone, but I have a policy to try and get back to clients the same day they called. And but yeah, most of my time is in front of clients.
Let's talk about budgets a little bit more.
Yeah.
How do you do a budget?
Well, you do it, if you're married, you do it with your partner. If you're single, you could do it by yourself, but it's probably a good idea to bring a friend in on it, or a parent or a grandparent, somebody who has a little bit more experience. But ultimately, you can write it down on a piece of scratch paper, list all of your fixed expenses. These are the things that don't change every month. List those all up, total them up. That's definitely what has to go out every month. Next tier is you're going to do your variable expenses but have to be paid. So food, people think of as a fixed expense, but food budgets vary every month between where you want to eat out or where you're shopping. Are you picking up some tri-tip for the barbecue? Are you picking up a wine bottle for an anniversary? So people think of food and groceries as a fixed expense because you have to have food, but it's variable. I will joke with clients a lot that, is this food budget include Costco or does it not include Costco? Because if we're not including Costco, then there's just one temperature on it. But once you get through those variable expenses that you need, then you get to the fun stuff. So fun stuff would be maybe going out on a date night or maybe traveling to the coast, maybe a hobby to fix up a car. And you got to be reasonable on these. Most people will just spend the rest of their money on fun and then there's nothing left. So at the end of the day, you're hoping to work people through that budget exercise and there be something left. If there's not something left, you need to go back. Are there debts that can be refinanced at a lower interest rate? Are there things that can be paid off with cash reserves? Has your credit improved? All those sort of things can really help. And then once you find a margin, that's what you spend the most of your time dealing with on the future. So say it's $500-600, then you start to fillet that open and put it towards the goals that are most important.
What are your goals? You help people about their goals.
Yeah.
You talk to them a little bit about financial goals and stuff like that. What about you? Let's talk about you. Now let's role reversal here.
Absolutely.
What are some of your goals?
You know, I have a goal for our family not to stress too much about money. One of the biggest causes of divorce is actually over finances. And so my goal is for my wife to understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, and for her to have questions, for us to sit down and talk about it. That really is one of my main goals. And she doesn't require too much of that attention, but I always really like to provide really careful explanations and delicate sort of thoughts on that. Outside of that, I mean, I have a goal to retire one day. I'm sitting with clients every month that are retiring, and they have realized that I've worked 35, 40 years, and I want to spoil my grandkids, or I want to travel more, or I don't want to get up at 6:30 every day. I want to get up at 7:30, and my job won't allow me to. Or I want to work part-time, that sort of thing. So I'm putting money away towards retirement. My wife and I are expecting our first kid next month.
Congratulations.
Little baby girl.
Diapers are expensive.
Diapers are expensive. People have been very generous with us. But my wife and I are already talking about what sort of schools would we want her to go to. And when my wife said, well, maybe a school like that I went to, I started to do the numbers, and I kind of told her how much that would be every month, and her eyes went up. And she said, well, that's a lot, but that's what I want. And so that's something we're going to do from month one is save up for her college.
Well, Justin, we're out of time this week on the program. Can you tell us how to get in touch, how people can get in touch with you?
Yeah. You can Google my name, Justin Vartanian, and our website will come up first. Our Facebook page will come up second. Or you could give me a call in my office at 559-490-7030.
So from Bullard to Fresno State to here you are in Fresno doing your financial advising. Good luck to you.
Thank you for having me.
That wraps it up for this edition of the Central Valley Ledger. You can watch more episodes of the Central Valley Ledger on CMAX channels Xfinity 93, UVerse 99, or CMAX website, www.cmac.tv. You can listen to episodes of the Central Valley Ledger on 90.7 KFSR Fresno. Thank you to the volunteer crew that made this production and every production possible. We couldn't do this program without you. If you'd like to volunteer, visit CMAC's volunteer page. Thanks again to our guest, Justin Vartanian, a local financial advisor. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week with a new edition.
KFSR and CMAC present the Central Valley Ledger every Sunday morning at 11:30. For a complete program schedule, visit kfsr.org.